And another thing I didn't even say, this is another funny little detail, that when I moved to New York, I moved in with some college friends who also hadn't found their real job yet. So they were temping, but they were working for a temp agency that worked for a lot of publishers. So they were frequently sent to Penguin. So I deliberately went to that temp agency and to sign up in the hopes that I would be sent to Penguin. And on the first day I was sent to Penguin. And that temp job turned into a real job. That was my first job in publishing. Now that job was, I was sort of a jack of all trades in a weird way. If your typewriter broke, because in those days, everyone didn't have a computer on their desk. Only the top executive people had a computer on their desk. So if your typewriter broke, you called me. If your office was too hot, you called me. If you needed to reserve a conference room, you called me. I was this sort of general person, but I moved from there into the children's marketing department. So sorry, so long-winded.
No. If my office is too hot and I call you, what are you going to do that I can't do?
Yeah, I'm going to call somebody else. That's all I'm going to do. I have no HVAC skills, none whatsoever.
You just come in with like a giant fan and cool them off, or open the window. Oh, Susan, thank you. I had no idea.
Much better than what usually would happen is I would say, okay, well, I'll call. And then the person would never call. It was just an endless string of phone tag, me trying to chase down the HVAC guy, because that was definitely not my skill set. Also, if you're looking for a person to organize the conference room schedule, don't hire me. Not me.
Well, I think your resume would be more than a little bit overqualified at this point.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Well. At this point, yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, when you're thrilled and overjoyed, the dream is coming true at that point. You're in publishing technically, even though you're maybe not doing what you want to do, or are you thinking maybe this is not so much for me? What happens that even though you're in the room where it happens, so to speak, you end up deciding to go be a librarian for a while?
Well, it's interesting. I think I think what drove me to, there were a couple things. There were two things. First of all, and this is something that I think, I wonder how much you get into this with other people, Rob, and kind of your thoughts about this too, but books are books, and reading is reading, and story is story, and I love all of that. Publishing is a business, and I also love the business, but I ended up feeling, I got to a place where I felt, again, I was young, I was in my early 20s, but I felt like I wanted to be closer to the books themselves. I wanted to be thinking less about business, and more about books and story. And that was a big thing that led me to think that libraries would be a place that I would love to be. And I did love being there. Funnily enough, going there then led me back into publishing, because I took a job being the director of library marketing back at Penguin where I had been. So it ended up being kind of a circular thing, but that's not what I anticipated when I did it. The other thing is that at that time at Penguin, in the basement were the archives, in the basement of the building that Penguin's offices were in. They had a couple floors, and then they had the basement. And sometimes, every once in a while, as an assistant, I would have to go down into the archives to go find an old file on the marketing plan for some book, or find the old files for whatever. And Penguin's backlist is like, it's just magnificent. And there's a number of backlists like that in the business, right? Harper, Random House, Simon & a lot of places have this. But I would go down there to find something and be down there for hours, because you could just pull open the files for S.E. Hinton, find little letters she had written when she was 16, when she wrote The Outsiders, back and forth, editorial back and forth between her and her editor at the time. You could find little notes scribbled on things from Ludwig Bemelmans. I mean, it was incredible. And being surrounded, also being able to, I mean, I didn't go down there a lot, but every once in a while having access to that too, I think made me feel like, oh, this is what I love. I love the books, and I want to figure out how to be even closer to them. So that was my impulse to go back to libraries and pursue the degree in library science. Which
then ends up with you being the library marketing director.
Exactly, which
it all works out and comes together.
Exactly. It sort of came back around on itself in a really great way. I loved doing library marketing. I think librarians are the best.
Me too. We love you, librarians. Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, they are out there every day on the front lines, getting kids to fall in love with books there, and teachers too, just these are amazing people.
And while you're at Penguin, you're also working for Dutton Editorial, and you began acquiring projects, right?
Yeah, and I don't want to make it sound like it's more than it was. I acquired a picture book, and then there was a short story collection. So I acquired a number of different short stories in that collection. It was almost more than that. What I think was really valuable about that for me was just the window into that part of the process. And I did attend like the weekly editorial meeting. So with my clients, when we get interested in a project and an editor says, okay, I'm going to take this project and share it with my team. I've been in one of those meetings many times because, I did this probably over the course of 2 years. So weekly meetings for 2 years, that's how long I did it. It was so fun and fascinating to look at the projects that were coming in and talk about them together, try to figure out what kind of potential they had and what they might do in the market. And I loved doing that. And I love doing that still with my clients now. It's really one of my favorite parts of the job. But then I had my son, and I realized, okay, so I'm essentially doing one job plus another job. Now I have a kid. One of these jobs is going to have to go. So that I had to step aside from the editorial at that time. But it's held me in good stead now, I think,
Well, that gives you the firsthand experience of what it is to be seeing those submissions, what it is to be convincing somebody within the house that, hey, this is the one we should be working with. All stuff that's going to come in handy throughout your agent career, right?
Totally, 100%. And I think too, it gives me a window into how much of the job of an editor is to be a marketer, how actually they're publicity people too. Because they are trying to get people excited about a project from that first initial meeting. And you don't, hopefully these are colleagues that know you and support you and want to champion you and what you're interested in. But you want to get them excited, and you need to put in that energy for it, otherwise that the group may not feel like, oh, this is a project we have to take on. So yeah, I think it's really been helpful for me to be able to have that perspective to be able to share with my clients.